advocate, and I am super excited if you are here joining us this morning or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we could be talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your network or your circle, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, as you guys know, this last week of May, I have been doing some spotlight features, and one of those spotlight features that I really wanted to dive into this year was Skin Cancer Awareness Month. And obviously, we're all bridging into summertime and the sun and all of that. And so you know her from Functional Fitness and being here as our fitness guru in the morning. But Amanda Cummins is here to tell us her journey and her story from actually this year, from 2020, with skin cancer. So welcome back, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yes. And, as I said in kind of our little promo video, you are a wife, a mother of 5, and it's all kind of spurred on, or I guess elevated, you'd say, after the birth of your son, right? This year. In the last year.
It was 2019, but it was the end of 2019. So, I had a birthmark on the side of my face, and I've had it my whole life. They had told my mom when I was born that it looked like skin cancer, that she should get it checked out, but she really wasn't concerned with it and never really changed. So it just was something I always had.
So you had when you were born, or it started to develop in your adolescent years?
No, since I was born.
Really?
But it wasn't like a mole birthmark. Some people have the red birthmark, and then some people have mole, and that's the birth. Mine was more it almost was orange and yellowy, bumpy. It was just different. I can't remember the name of what that specific birthmark was. Okay. But a few years ago, maybe I could have been even 5 years ago, it grew a lump. A pretty significant lump on it. It looked almost like a blood blister.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was but it grew the lump, and then the lump just stayed the same. So I wasn't super concerned about it, and I had asked my doctor when I went, I showed him, I'm like, oh, this, my birthmark grew this lump. And they said, oh, it looks like a blood blister, but maybe you should get checked out, wouldn't hurt. But they didn't seem concerned about it. And I have a lot of kids and a lot of things going on. And I was like, if they're not super concerned about it, I'll get it checked later.
Right.
But then after I had Wesley, it was 3 weeks after I had him. During those 3 weeks, the lump had grown another lump on it. And that lump was very painful. If I took off my shirt and it brushed up against that lump, I would cringe. I couldn't hold my phone up to that side of my face anymore because it was just in the way, and it hurt to touch it at all. So then it became a nuisance to me. So I decided I was going to go in. And I called my regular doctor at first, and they were booked until, I think she said January or something. And this was September, October. And I was like, I can't even imagine the size that it would have been if I would have waited, because it grew so fast in those 3 weeks. So I just called another dermatologist. I wasn't concerned, didn't even think skin cancer. I was young. I never burn. I always just tan. So they got me in the next week. They removed the first lump to biopsy, the first section of it, and they told me to come back in 7 days to get the stitches removed, which I did. And that's when they told me that it was skin cancer. So, yeah.
Oh my God. And quick question. When they told you that, did they reflect back on how long, what I'm saying? Because obviously when you were born, you had it, and then the worry that, has this been festering and building in your body this whole time? Could it have spread? What kind of concerns did they tell you at that time when they told you that that spot was skin cancer, knowing you've had that spot per se?
Correct. Yeah. So he said the weird thing with the spot that I had was that there was two different kinds of cancer cells, and they were twisted together in that spot. And he said he'd never seen that before. Usually it's one or the other. The good thing is that it wasn't melanoma. It was squamous cell and basal cell, but they were twisted together and on that spot. Now, when you get information like that from the doctor, and that wasn't even in my mind, and I have this little tiny baby in my arms when he told me this, you get that fight or flight response. So I was just like, okay. And I just picked up my stuff and left. I didn't even take paperwork. I just left. So that wasn't good. So then I had to call back and get information. And then your mind starts worrying, like how, what am I going to have to do? And I know that the squamous cell sometimes it's rare, but it can spread. And I had the first lump for years. So, and the birthmark for my whole life. But when I finally went back and asked, they said that particular kind of birthmark has a very high tendency to turn into skin cancer. And so I have to go back every year to get a full body scan. And they had to remove a pretty significant part of my face because they had to take off they wanted to make sure that they got enough around the edges of that birthmark.
Right.
So,
and were they concerned, was there any like after checking to make sure that it had not spread, or were they pretty certain that it was, as long as they went outside of that perimeter, that they had gotten all of it, that you didn't need to do any other type of proactive, moving forward treatment?
Yeah, they were pretty certain. She felt my lymph nodes around it, 'cause sometimes it can spread to there, and she thought that they felt fine. So, and then I was supposed to go back to get like a recheck of it, but then COVID happened. And so then I haven't been able to get back. So this is all kind of new to me on what the following steps coming out of this will be. But, they were, halfway through surgery, they had stopped and like sent the piece out that they took to make sure that the edges and everything looked good and they were all good cells, to make sure that they got it all before they sewed everything back up.
Yes,
So.
and if you look at the little kind of promo commercial I did before, I did put pictures of that, and we can drop some of those, just below, just for people to see the significance of the piece that they took. Now, what was their warning or moving forward, aside from that yearly checkup? Did they give you any things, that you can kind of pass along, I guess, to the audience from wearing sunblock? And I know that when we talk about sunblock, sometimes people wear it in the wrong manner. It's like, oh, well, it's in my moisturizer that I use as skincare. And then for our kids, it's like, okay, well, the SPF was really high, so I don't need to reapply it. What kind of thing and message did they give you that you could pass along to the audience?
So the first few there's a few that I want to pass along. Is one, I am Italian, so when I go out in the sun, I get dark. I don't burn ever. And a lot of people, because now that I have had skin cancer and, I never wore sunscreen because I didn't burn, so I didn't need it, is what I thought. And I have a lot of people when I say, oh, you need to wear sunscreen, you need to wear sunscreen. Well, I don't burn. Neither did I. So
Right.
just because you don't burn doesn't mean that your skin is not being affected negatively by the sun. I wear an SPF 50. Anytime I go out, reapply every couple hours. I like to be outside. This year I'm a little nervous to see how it's going to go. But I reapply at least every couple hours. And I make sure that my sunscreen is, because I sweat when I go outside. So it's like the sport kind, so that it can withhold me sweating and doing things that I want to do outside. But always reapply and always put it on. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't burn.
Right. And remembering that reapplication, especially for kids, and I know that with you having 5 kids, my kids, I have the spray and the stuff, I just like line them up, you know what I'm saying, and put it on. But it's so easy to lose track of time when our kids are in the water or when they're playing, like to actually come back out and reapply, but know the importance, of that. The other thing that personally I just wanted to pass along is that a lot of not a lot of people, I don't know what the percentage actually is, but I know a significant amount of people are allergic sometimes to the concoctions of different SPFs, and whether
Mhm.
that's put into makeup products, whether that's put
Yep.
into skincare products, they can. And the remedy that I have found for that, because I have like a hypersensitivity to it, especially if I use it on my face, is using zinc. So, there is zinc, with the SPF in it. And they also recommend that when my son Marcus had spinal surgery, anytime in the sun for that first year for that huge scar, they wanted me to use a zinc over that. And that seems like it doesn't have so many irritating components in it. So those that
Yeah.
might say, hey, when I use an SPF on my face, it inflames, it does that. That would be my recommendation for that. Is there any products that you really like for your kids or for yourself?
Um, m- we don't really have any skin concerns like what with the SPF, so I don't go below 50. Um, because it's just not worth it. If I want to be tan, there's fake tanner. And that's safer for me than going in the sun. The other thing I do is not only do I use the SPF 50, but if I'm going outside, I'm wearing a hat. I have decided I'm just going to be one of those girls that wears those big cute floppy hats all the time. Because if the sun can't get to you, if you have that hat on and that protection that way,
Yes.
you're just even more protected. But remember, even if you're in a pool, or especially if you're in a pool during the summer, that the sun can reflect off of the water onto your face. So even if you have that hat on, that doesn't mean that you don't need that sunscreen on as well.
Yes. And don't you find that when you're in the water, you actually a lot of times get more tan, more burnt,
Absolutely.
because of that reflection coming back at
Mhm.
you, and you don't feel it as much. Like you don't feel like you're so hot because you're submersed in the water.
And interestingly enough, you can get the same effect from snow. So snow can reflect the sun just as well.
Yes, if you're in outside. So if you decide in Wisconsin to go running in the winter.
I, I don't go outside when it's snowing. I don't like cold. So I'm safe there.
You're there. Last question. I know I'm like drilling you this morning at
No,
7
that's
a.m. Was there any organizations? I know that I had tagged a few larger organizations that seem to put out good information for, skin cancer awareness. Is there any good organizations that the doctor's office like referred you to, or to learn more about it, or anything that way?
I didn't get referred to any organizations. Like I said, I kind of flighted out of there. And then it was more on the surgeon side that I saw, her more often than I did the actual dermatologist. And then I was supposed to go back, but because of COVID, I haven't had an opportunity yet. So I'm thinking that maybe when I can go back, that I'll get more information then.
Yes, because this is so fresh and new. And if anyone is watching this on the replay, watching this now, if you've ever been affected by skin cancer, melanoma, you have friends or family that have any resources that you have, good information, great to drop it below for us.
Mhm.
Just so that, we can find out what everyone is hearing. Because I know I just saw, and I didn't read the article, they just came out with a new 100 proof SPF. And the caption of the article was, is 100 proof really better? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does it really
Yeah.
change the fact of having to reapply? Because sometimes in our minds we think, okay, well, if it's higher, I don't have to reapply it as often.
Mhm.
So I believe that the article was tackling whether that's faulty advertising, like making you feel more confident that you don't have to reapply, charging a higher price, but really you're getting the same effect as if you were to use a 50.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back and try to grab that article and stick it below and read that. But it's always great to get, the more
Yes.
information and knowledge, the better.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say too is as women, I know that we don't like to put, we're afraid we're going to wreck our complexion if we put sunscreen on, or like it feels heavy, it feels gross. I don't ever wear makeup, and so like putting sunscreen on, it feels thick and gross on my face. But when they did that surgery, I will wear anything on my face as long as I don't have to because your face is really sensitive. There's a lot of nerves in your face, and when they cut that piece out, that was, the recovery for that was way harder than what I anticipated. And still, it's been, oh geez, they did it in November, the surgery. And my scar still hurts because those nerves are trying to heal. So, I get these sharp pains all the time in that area. And she said the surgeon said it can last up to 2 years, this pain.
Okay.
And sometimes it makes it, I can't even speak because it's so bad. But, so that is way worse than applying sunscreen.
Yes. Yes.
So put it on.
Put it on. Yes. And if there's any favorite sunscreens, drop those below as well. So I thank you so much this morning, Amanda, coming and sharing your story. I know that we're going to be on again this summer with summer ideas. And if it's outside, we'll all have our sunblock. We'll all have our sunblock on. So fun summer fitness and activities for those of all abilities to be able to do during these summertime months. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing those pictures with us, because I think you talking about it and giving the audience a chance to see the visual of what happened, what was removed, is very impactful, and, you know, really shows them too, like, wow, I mean, this is something you were born with, you know, that it's not just something that develops. And the fact that you talk about, we all say that, you know, I have myself, I have a more olive complexion. Oh, I never burn. How many people say that, you know? And so it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I appreciate you sharing this morning. And I hope that everybody, even though that's not the segment, is getting moving this morning. It's Friday. Stay fit.
Yes. And active.
Get moving. Stay safe. Thank you so much again, Amanda. Thank you all. You're welcome. Thank you all for tuning in this morning to the On Air Advocate. If you want to know more about the On Air Advocate's resources, head on over to onairadvocate.com. If you're viewing this from Facebook right now, head on up to the top of this Facebook page, hit the blue button, and that will let you into our private community. So with that, you guys all have a fabulous weekend. I might be back on over the weekend. I'm not sure. I've been trying to put a few things together. So I will see you guys all soon. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.